So what are the differences between a good swing and a great swing? Well, the answer will surprise you since it's incredibly subtle. Right after this, let's take a look at the differences. So if you're looking to improve your swing, you'll definitely want to stay tuned. So first, I know a lot of you out there are just working towards getting a good golf swing, and maybe you're in the fair category, maybe you're still in the bad swing category. So let's just say that someone who's over an 18 handicap, above a bogey golfer, let's say that you've got a pretty bad swing. Let's say a fair swing would be someone who's about a 9 to an 18, someone who's below a 9, single digits all the way down to 0. Just for this instance, let's define that as someone having a good swing. And then a great swing would be somebody who plays below scratch, into the pluses and all the way out to the tour players. So let's start with bad swing, the difference between bad swing and a good swing, because they kind of lead one into the next. Someone with a bad swing, and this is what I see the most typically, someone with a bad swing usually gets the club in, but then they start to lift it and they end up getting above the plane. So if you think the Hogan glass here going through my base of my neck, they get the arms lifting way above the plane, and then it keeps floating and continuing in that circle, coming down very vertically, usually a little on the outside, and they end up hitting very weak slices, usually, sometimes pulls, a lot of heel hits too in that category. So that's a typical bad swing. Now, sprinkled in with the bad motion, you also might find, bad weight shift, bad footwork, something like this way. So you have some bad footwork, you throw in maybe a poor grip as well, and you've got yourself a bad situation that will be difficult to play below bogey golf. Now, the difference between a bad swing and a good swing, probably the number one thing here is someone with a good swing will not be approaching the ball from this angle, coming down through the shoulder or above the shoulder very vertically into the ball, but instead they'll at least be able to find a reasonably shallow slot, let's say in here, coming into the ball, so dropping it down middle of the arm or even down to the forearm here, and they'll be able to at least deliver the club in from the slot. So they're going to get a lot more power. They'll tend to be able to control their path and get it to the inside a little bit more, inside to out. And they'll generally be able to turn the ball over, square it up, and even hit a draw at times. So that club would be delivered something like this into the ball. So it's coming from the inside and shallow into the ball. And that's typically what the better swing will do. So there's two subtle differences between the good swing and the great swing. Number one, you'll see that they'll both be reasonably in the slot. They'll look pretty similar coming in, a good swing to a great swing. The great swinger is going to better maintain the hip line, while the good swinger might still have a little bit of stand up this way as they come in like that. The great golfer, the great golf swing, may even back the butt line up an inch or two, something like this. And that will enable them to turn and set up the next step, which is the handle path exit. So the good swing, they're going to come from here, and then they start to get a little bit off and they start to make the handle of the club exit a little too straight up the fairway, while the toe is closing relative to the arc too much. So they end up with a little bit of a timing issue on the club face, and it's going from a little open to a little closed, a little too rapidly to time consistently. So that is the second subtle difference between the good and the great swing, besides keeping the rump line back, which absolutely sets us up for the next correct step, which is, so here comes the maintenance of the butt line. Now, as I come into impact, I'm actually going to make this club handle continue arcing around to the left like that. Now notice how the club face is tracking more square to the arc here. You can see a little bit facing more up to the sky at this point, where the good swing only will have a little bit more of this toe rolling over look at that point. And really that is the primary differences between a good swing that might get you down to a 2 or a 3 handicap and no more, and a great swing which might get you 0, +1, +2. Those golfers simply come through maintaining the rump line better and exiting around to the left with the handle. I've seen hundreds of them on all the different mini tours that I played on. You could just kind of predict what their miss was going to be and how often it might happen based on those two things. All right, let me see if I can hit one and do the difference between the good and the great. That means I'm going to try to keep the rump line back and exit the handle around to the left. Let's give it a shot. So a pretty good shot, just about 10 or 15 feet out to the right from about 215 yards carry. That's a pretty good shot, but looking back at the replay, I could see, and judging by the ball flight, I could see that I could use just a touch more of this move here, as I was just a bit too straight ahead. Let's take a look at a really great swing. Here's Colin Morikawa coming up, and you can see quite clearly how he's in the slot beautifully shallow, but then he absolutely does not send the club handle to second base or center field or out to right field like some of us do, but he actually continues on the arc. The handle continues to arc around him, exiting around to the left again, coming up into a beautiful finish. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Steve, and as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.
Oh.